Now, after a frustrating game week 36, we are back with my team selection for the upcoming game week. And in today's video, we're going to obviously discuss my transfer plans, my potential captaincy, and of course, run through my team selection. Now, before we dive into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 13,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is very much becoming a possibility. So of course, if you are new around here, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button. As you can see, it was a little bit of a hit and miss week, to be honest. We had some players that definitely did perform, but as you can see from our front line, really letting us down, to be honest. There wasn't too much kind of right home about there. Obviously, Visser with 1 point, Mateta not even making 60 minutes, another blank for Alexander Isak as well. And as you can see, just to rub that little bit of extra salt in the wounds, an 8-pointer for Areola and a 6-pointer for Rodgers as well. I exclude Konza there because I always feel like I was never going to play him ahead of Mykolenko, Munoz and Gvardiol. I was pretty happy with all that backline, and they all did their bit, to be honest. Mykolenko grabbing that goal, Munoz obviously getting an assist and a clean sheet, Gvardiol with a clean sheet as well. We didn't do as well as obviously Ruben Diaz. He was the star defender pick to go for from Manchester City this week. Thankfully, we got the captaincy decision right because the other player I was considering was Kevin De Bruyne. So it's not too much of a kind of blow. I think it kind of ends our top 5 kind of 5k finish ambitions. We're probably looking more now likely just going to be securing that top 10k finish, unless I did go a little bit mad. And there are some transfer plans that potentially could be that route, but it could also be the one that of course does lose our 10k finish in the end. But overall, a little bit disappointing. Like I said, obviously we've been on a pretty good run in recent weeks, so it was a little bit of a shame to finish on a red arrow, but thankfully it wasn't too detrimental to our overall season rank. Let's take a look then first at the data from Rob T FPL, who obviously was one of the contenders on FPL Focal's Ballon d'Or for this year. And very fair play, because we've used Rob in pretty much every game week this season. We used him in the Euros. We've been using him in the Champions League video as well. So, of course, if you do enjoy his content, make sure to go and drop him a follow. But the interesting stuff from this week, of course, is going to be the projected goal numbers here for Aston Villa and Chelsea at 2.65 and 2.45 for Chelsea as well. Obviously, there's going to be quite a lot of rotation heading into those games for Tottenham and Manchester United, with of course their big game of the season being on Wednesday. So you imagine both clubs probably going to put out fairly rotated sides. Meanwhile, on the other side of that coin, you have Aston Villa and Chelsea that are both fighting for Champions League football next season. So, you know, they're going to go full strength, full send into this, and they are really fancied, as you can see here, by the bookmakers. 4 goals, 4 clean sheets. And it definitely is making me think, you know, I've got Konza, I've got Rodgers. I'd really like to get that man at the left of the screen there, Ollie Watkins, of course, Cole Palmer, as potential captaincy options as well, because I always like to target the teams that are, of course, top for these projected goal numbers. And obviously, when the further betting data does come out from Rob TFPL, which we'll cover in the deadline stream on Friday, it will, of course, outline who is going to be the projected goal scorers or goal involvements. And I'm expecting to see Cole Palmer, Ollie Watkins towards the top of this list. So 2 players definitely for me that I want to be targeting. Obviously, they're pretty big gaps within my side as well. Everton have got a pretty nice fixture, so happy with my Mykolenko pick heading into this week. Brentford's numbers as well are pretty decent. I actually think they could do a little bit of a job on Fulham heading into this game week as well. And we've also got a clash at the bottom, of course, if you were looking for a potential differential pickup in terms of your strikers, with Leicester taking on Ipswich. As you can see, Leicester slight favourites probably heading into that one, but these sides, they haven't really scored too many goals this season. That's probably some of the highest projected goal data I've actually seen from them all campaign. So if you are fancying a punt on maybe Jamie Vardy or, of course, the Lap heading into this game week, I don't mind it too much. I think they could be pretty solid pickups heading into game week 37. Let's take a look then at my transfer targets, and I think it was pretty clear in the last section who, of course, I was going to be targeting this week. It is Ollie Watkins and it is Cole Palmer. Now, with these players, Both of them, of course, would require a sacrifice for a heavily owned player. In the case of Ollie Watkins, with the budget that I've got available, it would be taking out Alexander Isak, which I don't mind too much considering some of the news that we have got where Alexander Isak is going to go for surgery over the summer as he's been dealing with a recurring injury issue. And that usually happens where you see a player kind of just stagnate towards the end of seasons because they've just been carrying such a long-term injury that they need to get it fixed. They're not playing 100%, so maybe that does give me reasonable cause to take him out despite the potential damage that he could, of course, do to us with his high effective ownership. And then on the other hand, Cole Palmer would require me to take out either Kevin De Bruyne or Mohamed Salah. Now, I think I want to keep Kevin De Bruyne. I think his minutes are probably going to be pretty solid. Salah, obviously Liverpool, some of the teams out in Dubai. We've seen the videos of Arne Slot in Ibiza as well. So I'm starting to think that they're not taking it too seriously either. So again, is Mohamed Salah going to produce? Since game week 30, he's not really done too much that has kind of hurt people's ranks. And I think sometimes there is always that fear going against a big, highly owned player that can do massive damage. But if they're not in the right frame of mind and the team's not obviously delivering fully for that player as well, it is, of course, time to switch off them. Now, I'm not saying Cole Palmer's been in terrific form either since game week 30. He hasn't. As you can see from the past 5 game weeks here, it has been a little bit of a slugfest for him. But he potentially could be playing within a false 9 position, considering that Jackson is suspended. But I think usually when Jackson is suspended, it does make Chelsea look a weaker side overall. And I think he does have some key qualities that help bring other players into the game. And I do think we potentially could see Cole Palmer suffer from that even further than he's already showed with his existing numbers. But I was kind of in the office today at work looking at who people had in their side, and a lot of people have brought in Cole Palmer early doors and they give him the armband. So I'm again a little bit frightened by the prospect of that, frightened by the fact that Manchester United have been so poor in the Premier League, and we saw with those projected goal numbers as well how good they do look heading into this game week. So he's one that is probably second to Ollie Watkins in terms of transfers, but still one that I feel could do a lot of damage heading into this game week. Now, Ollie Watkins, on the other hand, I really want to get him in the side. I think Isak is going to be the switch out. Tottenham and Manchester United, both excellent fixtures pre-Europa League and, of course, post-Europa League. That means Manchester United are either going to be on the piss or they are going to be very down and out, and you might have some players potentially looking at the exit door. Obviously, there's a big money move for Bruno Fernandes on the card, so that potentially could, you know, sway a few players that might be like, I'm done with United basically at that point in game week 38. Of course, Villa still fighting for that Champions League football as well. His past 5 appearances, as you can see there, 3 goals, 1 assist, all pretty good stuff leading towards it. And in terms of my projections at the moment and where I'm at in terms of who I'd like to bring in, Watkins is the leading candidate ahead of Cole Palmer. Now, if I was to do both of them for a -4, it is a big ballsy move that potentially could cock us up and lead us to finishing outside of the top 10k, or it could be one of those master strokes. I'm yet to decide if I want to take this -4 decision. I'm not 100% guaranteed it's going to be the play. I've got a little bit of doubt surrounding Cole Palmer, but of course, if you want to sway my decision in the comment section below, get them in. The other big decision heading into this game week then, of course, is going to be captaincy. Who do we captain? Which player do we captain? Because there are so many great options heading into this game week. Now, the Fantasy Football Hub predictor for this game week has selected Saka as its option. A player that I've, again, not considered heading into this game week. I've not really thought about Bukayo Saka. He is a player that I potentially would like to look at next week with, of course, the Southampton fixture, but the Hub tool is rating him as one of the top picks for this game week with 6.4. Salah is up there with 6.1. He's pretty much been a consistent player towards those top 2 positions throughout the course of this season, so I wasn't really expecting too much of a change. I don't think it's probably going to be down to his performance. I think maybe the team, obviously, eyes are kind of focused elsewhere at the moment with that squad, and they do seem a little bit off the boil. Watkins is there ahead of Cole Palmer as well, and I think if I was to bring in Watkins to this side, I would be very tempted to give him the armband. We saw the projected goal numbers from the Rob T FPL data, so I think that is potentially going to be the move. And as you can see, I've got quite a few of the other big point hitting players anyway, the likes of KDB, Visser and Buemo, all within my squad anyway. So in terms of my current captaincy, I do think I am probably going to lead towards Ollie Watkins. I'm probably going to avoid the Manchester City players just because We don't know what's going to happen in that FA Cup final. Then, of course, they do play the Premier League. There potentially could be some rotation for Kevin De Bruyne if it was to go down to that as well, where, of course, they play Saturday, Tuesday. So maybe some rotation for KDB, for Haaland, players like that, especially Haaland. It is kind of quite a short turnaround for a player that has just returned from a long-term injury. So I think, for me personally, probably wouldn't be looking to bring him in, or in that case as well, give him the armband heading into this game week. But I think my top pick for this week is going to be Ollie Watkins. Right, wasting no time, let's head into my team selection for the upcoming game week then. Starting off first with our goalkeeper and defender picks. We're going to go with Raya in goal. Do I go Areola? I am really tempted. I think with it just being a home fixture for Arsenal, I probably still am going to lead towards Raya. They still have been one of the best sides for XG conceded. I think the fact that so many people have got Saliba, a Raya, a Kivior, a Timber, I do think it probably is going to be the safer, effective ownership route, but I am very tempted to whack Areola in there. Forest's XG kind of created numbers have been some of the lowest within the league over the past 10 game weeks. And yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit tempted to, of course, maybe take that gamble on Areola this week. If I'd have done it last week, we would have got ourselves a green arrow. We got that 8-pointer, but of course, hindsight is one of those things that you can't always work with in your favour. In terms of the back three, I do think they pretty much picked themselves this week. Mikolenko with Southampton, as we saw from the projected data from Rob T FPL, pretty decent clean sheet predicted numbers there. Munoz against Wolves, I'm feeling pretty confident on that one, especially after his 11-pointer. Could have come away with a lot more in that game as well. Of course, had 2 assists, one of them being denied for the opening goal from Sarr as well. Gvardiol, I'm feeling pretty confident as well with Manchester City. Looked really dangerous. If you watch the City game, he was one of the most attacking kind of threats that Manchester City had from their whole game, to be honest. There was a ball that won't count towards any data because the defender got in the way, but a ball goes to the back post and there he is, and a player just clears it off. If he gets a touch on that, it is a goal. It is 1-0 Manchester City, and it's probably going to be all 3 bonus points for Gvardiol. He looks so much better within that left-back position now that Akanji is back within the side. So I think we're going to see the full kind of Gvardiol package that we've kind of come to know over the past few seasons with him. Him back at left-back in a very advanced role could be a very delicious prospect to kind of get our mouths salivating with a little bit as well. In terms of the bench defenders, we've of course got Konza and Kivior. Like I said, I do just feel that defence probably picks itself ahead of those others this game week. Heading into the midfield then, Mohamed Salah is going to stick there. Like I said, since game week 30, hasn't been hitting the heights. Again, could be a decent captaincy option. Brighton still have something to play for. Obviously, Salah's got a pretty decent record against Brighton. I mean, who doesn't this guy have a pretty decent record against, to be honest? He is one of those players that, of course, can deliver. And you do feel, you know, some of the squad is probably out in Dubai, in Ibiza, on the bevies, but where's Salah? He's probably back at his home gym working harder than ever, and we all know that, but I do feel the Liverpool side potentially could let him down, and like I said, come the deadline, I may be tempted to drop him for Cole Palmer this game week. Jared Bowen has been a man on fire, and I'm so glad that I own him. I always end up with Jared Bowen in my side. I have a massive soft spot for him. I've picked it right yet again. The guy is on fire at the moment. 5 attacking returns within his past 4 games. Maybe he could be a potential captaincy shout as well, heading into this game week with, of course, Nottingham Forest, who over the past 10 game weeks have lost this mantle of being one of the best sides for XG conceded within the Premier League. I believe they currently find themselves 16th or 17th within that ranking table as well. Leicester managed to put 2 past them as well. So it's one of those where I do think Bowen is a great player to have this week. Do I think he's captaincy material? Probably not. Despite the good returns that he's had over the past few weeks, only one of them have been a double-digit haul, and over the course of the season, he's had 2 double-digit hauls. Now, I know he's in this really good, rich vein of form, but I don't think he's probably going to be the captaincy potential, because he's just not hitting the double-digit numbers. He's scoring well, yes, but not quite captaincy material. Not quite yet for me, so I don't think it's going to be the play. but maybe another one to consider for you yourselves. A player that definitely could be the captain is Bryan Mbeumo. Fulham in that second half against Everton absolutely just fell over, capitulated, ended their European dreams. You feel Marco Silva, there's a big money offer for him potentially on the line. Maybe he's looking elsewhere. This could be, you know, a little bit of Fulham just kind of stagnating towards the end of the season. They know Marco Silva's going, and potentially we do see a new manager come in the summer. So maybe Brentford, with their European hopes still intact as well, could get themselves a decent win here. And Bryan, we all know what he is capable of. 90-minute man, flat track bully on penalties. Big ticks in terms of captaincy as well. KDB, I've currently got as the vice for this one. Obviously, City 2.2 projected goals heading into this game week from the Rob T FPL data. KDB was, of course, selected on the predicted points list quite high as well from Fantasy Football Hub. I am tempted to switch this though to Bryan Mbeumo with, of course, the City game taking place on the Tuesday. They've got that FA Cup game before that, so I think the sensible play probably is just to shift it over to Bryan Mbeumo and not have it on KDB heading into this week. Rodgers, I've benched him for the past few weeks and he's been a little bit of a torment, hasn't he? And I imagine a lot of people are in a very similar position with Morgan Rodgers. But against this Spurs side, with Aston Villa having the top numbers for projected goals this week, we've got to be playing somebody like Morgan Rodgers. So happy to have him in the side. In terms of our strikers then, we've got Visser. Before the game week that I brought him in for Ipswich, he was cooking. Then we brought him back in and it was a little bit disappointing. But again, very similar situation with, of course, Bryan Mbeumo. Fulham, like I said, maybe going to be on the beach now. Maybe players looking to leave. Maybe Marco Silva looking to leave. Brentford still something to play for. And Visser and Mbeumo, this might be their last season at Brentford. They might want to put the club in a really good position. Of course, they've both had absolutely terrific seasons with over 20 goal contributions each, which is absolutely unbelievable for Brentford players. So, yeah, I think they'll want to end the season strong. And I think they can do the job. Watkins is going to be captain, one of the top players for predicted points. We saw with the Rob T FPL data as well, top for projected goals for that week. I imagine when the data does come out regarding betting data for projected goals and projected goal involvement, Watkins is going to be one of those top players to have heading into this game week. Now, of course, like I said, there is still that -4 move up in the air. We potentially could get rid of KDB. I believe we should have enough to do this. We have the exact funds to get rid of KDB to bring in Cole Palmer. It would require me taking a -4, and I don't mind that as a potential move if we wanted to go down that one. Of course, Bournemouth did beat Manchester City earlier in the season as well. We could also swap out Mohamed Salah if we wanted to go down that route. But as you can see, if we head into next week, the team is looking fairly decent. Like, it's looking pretty good. We could, of course, take Mohamed Salah out here for Bukayo Saka. That potentially could be the play, and just drop Kivior in there. I think we're in a really good position, like I said. I'm unsure about this -4 move, whether I want to take it. I definitely feel I want to do this Ollie Watkins move for Alexander Isak one. The Cole Palmer that one, though, I am a little bit hesitant on. Let me know in the comments section which way you are potentially leaning on that one. It might be a coin flip on the deadline stream, so of course, make sure you're checking that out. We'll probably be live from like 1:30-ish on Friday afternoon, so get yourself there ready for sending your teams in, and of course I'll be there answering as many questions as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 37.